Green is what drives politics sometimes, but policy does too, and so does passion. And Tony Daunt has passion for sure, the executive director of the Michigan Freedom Fund, and he's been reviewing some of the results from the primary election. He's got some news that has him pleased. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Happy to be here. Thank you, sir.
You very carefully endorse candidates at the Michigan Freedom Fund when they run. And how was your result then on Tuesday?
Well, we had a great night. We endorsed 50 candidates in for election back, in this kind of late spring when we did our process. You said carefully. That's very true. We take this very seriously. We do a questionnaire and in-person interviews, or this year in-Zoom interviews. And of those 50 endorsements, 48 of the folks that we endorsed won. And so a very successful night. And, some races we invested more heavily in terms of our efforts there. And of those, only one of those lost. And, obviously that's unfortunate. We always want to run the table, but very happy with the candidates in the Republican primaries that came through and that are lined up for the general election. Congratulations!
That's one heck of a batting average.
I'll take it. I think that'd be above 300, which they consider Hall of Fame. So we'll take it.
Would there be any situation in the general election where I presume you'll do the same with your endorsements, where you would endorse a Democrat?
We're always open to endorsing Democrats. Obviously, always happy to work with Democrats, even if we haven't endorsed them on certain policy issues. There's things we actually align with a lot of Democrats. I just don't see it this year. There's too many differences. I think the Democrats have gone so far to the radical left. Not all of them here in the state of Michigan. There are folks even in Democratic leadership here in the state that have a good relationship with and trust them and would love to work with them on a number of issues. But just kind of as a whole, I just don't see it. The National Democrats in particular, this kind of the wokeness as it's called, is just so far gone, and they just lack kind of that ability to condemn that. And don't know why, but it's unfortunate.
That is a fascinating word, a frightening word too, the wokeness, and that's a topic we could go on about all morning long. It's full of intrigue and full of traps and puzzling, and I hope that people will dive a little bit more into it and realize that what they see and hear on television sometimes is designed not necessarily around freedom or the truth, but around agenda. That's fair to say, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. And, I've always been concerned about the idea that, well, this is just something on college campuses, and it's just going to, once those kids grow up and get into the real world, they're going to be slapped in the face by reality. And unfortunately, they're bringing that mindset into the real world, into the corporate boardrooms, universities, you name it. And it is incredibly dangerous to the foundation of this country. And, an author that I really like, but that I often disagree with, Andrew Sullivan, had a great piece on this and what it portends for the future of this country that I recommend everybody read. And, again, it's Andrew Sullivan, and it's called The Roots of Wokeness. And, my friend Greg McNeely just sent it to me this morning, and it really lays it out. So.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to look more closely at the philosophy behind the movement. And tying in a bit with that, what did you make of the governor's announcement yesterday at 10:30? She declared racism a public health crisis in the state, and then talked about the advisory council and the fact that the state workers are going to have to take impact bias training, I think is what it's called, or implicit bias training. And the governor said, I'm not saying everybody is racist, but that you are raised with certain biases.
It's that type of mindset just is contemptible to me. And that's not to say that racism does not exist. It certainly exists, and we are always working and struggling to overcome the remnants and vestiges of that. But this country has made incredible progress, and to focus on those things that divide us, to make everybody feel as though, well, you may not think you're racist, but really you are, is just so dangerous, again, to the foundations of this country, and focusing on what brings us together. And our leaders should be focusing on that, not driving wedges between us. And I can't stand that type of mindset.
Well, can you give us a quick update in the next minute on what's going on with the redistricting effort?
Yeah, I can try to do that. As of right now, they had the 200 names drawn, and the leaders did their strikes, so we're down to 180. And from there, they do a random drawing to get to 13 of 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 5 independents. And I expect that to take place here relatively soon, and we'll monitor and hold them accountable starting then.
Okay, let's hang on just a second. I got another question for you, if you don't mind. It's Tony Daunt at the Michigan Freedom Fund. You can Google up Michigan Freedom Fund and get his Front Lines of Freedom. That will come to you in your email box every week, and you can contribute as well to the causes and the candidates that they back. Check it out for yourself, Michigan Freedom Fund. And when we get back, we're going to talk about what Joe Biden said to a reporter and get Tony Daunt's reaction to that in just a moment. Tony Daunt is with us from the Michigan Freedom Fund, and we were talking about wokeness and the cancel culture these days. And I wanted to get your reaction to Joe Biden, who was giving an interview during an event with the National Associations of Black and Hispanic Journalists, and the journalist asked him if he'd taken a cognitive test. And here's how the Democrat nominee for president, former vice president, responded.
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say to President Trump, who brags about his test and makes your mental state?
Okay, so Tony, he asked him, well, you heard what he asked him, and then he concluded the question by saying, are you a junkie?
Just incredible. I mean, that it has nothing to do with the question he was asked. And, I would assume, given the group, that the reporter was a minority.
Yeah.
And for that type of reaction, I mean, very honestly, I don't think that Joe Biden, I don't think you could call Joe Biden racist for saying something like that, but it's just so ridiculous to immediately move to, are you a junkie? And the real thing that upsets me is that if that was, just kind of a Republican state representative from some random community in Iowa, the entire Republican Party the media would demand that every Republican answer for that, and that person would be racist, and it would get right back to this discussion about racism and it's the double standard is just really something to behold, because I would imagine that the mainstream media is doing their best to ignore that type of comment from Joe Biden, and it just goes to show the double standard that makes a lot of conservatives and Republicans just simply tune out the media and not trust them.
It was Joe Biden who was doing a radio interview back in May with a black host who said, if you vote for Trump, you ain't black. You remember he said that as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's quite the pattern, isn't it?
Yeah, I saw Joy Reid the other day posting that Joe Biden's campaign is full of old white men making the decisions for him. And it's just, it's interesting who can say what and when, according to what standards. And keep an eye and an ear on that for you. Tony Daunt, Michigan Freedom Fund, Michael Patrick Shiels, all across Michigan, just trying to listen and learn and understand.